All right. So listen, guys, our website is called whatsonsports.com. And while we're over there, you guys can go over and check it out right now. Read some cool articles, watch some cool videos, listen to some podcasts. And you can also send us messages. And not messages like, hey, guys, go screw yourself. But messages like, hey, guys, can you answer my question? So every week we dig inside the mailbag. We take out the questions from the mailbag. I don't do it. Lance goes through. He finds 3 of the greatest questions. He reads the questions to me. I answer the questions to the best of my ability. Lance will answer back and talk about a little bit something over there. So we go back and forth and try to answer these people's questions. Let's go to question number 1 out of the mailbag today. Here we go.
Okay, so question number 1 comes from Anita from Atlanta. So if you're watching, Anita, hello. Even with Eric Fisher around, will the Kansas City O-line prevent the swarming Tampa Bay defense?
Yes. I do not believe that Kansas City is going to make this mistake twice. Kansas City will build in packages that will have to protect Patrick Mahomes. He is the franchise. And forget about the fact he's got a 10-year extension on his contract. Yeah. But he is the entire offense. You have to protect Patrick Mahomes. You have to give him time, and you have to figure out a way that teams can't line up in a 4-man front and be able to put that kind of pressure on you. So I think Eric Fisher comes back and he's healthy. I think that they invest either a high draft choice or 2 in more offensive linemen so they can create that depth that needs to happen there. They may even go into free agency. You might be able to get an older guy who just wants to win a Super Bowl, and that might be, he may think that's his path to go play for Kansas City at a discounted rate. I should be getting $9 million. I'll play for 5, a guy like that. I don't have the guys off the top of my head, so I don't want to say any names, but yes, I believe this is definitely a fixable thing. I also think it's scheme like we talked about. You have to figure out a way where you can put an extra tight end in that can block. You got to, maybe it's not going to be Kelsey because he's such a weapon, but get another tight end who can block and can chip somebody. Bring in Le'Veon Bell, who may not be the running back he was before, but Le'Veon Bell, in my eyes, is one of the best pass defending running backs that I've seen ever in the NFL. He barely saw the field yesterday. He barely touched the field. He didn't get a carry. I rarely saw him out there. I would have played Le'Veon Bell a lot more in the backfield as a sidecar for Patrick Mahomes and told him, listen, chip the hell out of somebody. You got to protect this guy. So, yes, I think Kansas City will fix the problem. I just think that they were too stubborn in the moment or maybe unprepared in the moment to fix it, and so they just didn't do it.
Yeah, so coming into the draft, I guess it made it easier for them to really assess what's the weak link in their offense or in their team in total. So Patrick Mahomes always gives them an opportunity to win, so they have to protect that asset. So wouldn't be surprising if they get a free agent offensive lineman in the offseason or do it through the draft.
Yeah, they're going to have a little bit of cap space somehow. That Kansas City's really worked out a way to be able to have a little bit of cap space coming into this offseason. Sammy Watkins comes off the books. A couple other medium-sized contracts come off the books. You can always rework some of Mahomes' cap space and move it forward so that you can say, this is our window. We have to try to win now. So I see Kansas City making some moves in the offseason that actually make that team just a little bit better. Let's go to our next question.
Okay, so this is from George of Chicago. Hello, George. So, will being traded to a new team help Carson Wentz resurrect his once promising career?
So, I watched Carson Wentz play last year or this past year, and there were games where he just looked awful, and there were games like against Pittsburgh where he looked really well. He looked really good. The guy can still play, in my opinion. Something happened inside his head. Something got scrambled inside his head, whether it was the way he was being coached or the way he was accepting coaching. You hear a lot of different stories. The story I heard was that he wasn't accepting coaching the way that he should have. Maybe there was a personal issue between him and the coaches. I don't know the whole story, but there's got to be a reason that a guy who was in the MVP talks just 2 years ago declines at such a rapid rate at the age he is. I don't know what the answer is, but it's funny that the guy wrote from Chicago because the last thing that I read was that the Chicago Bears were actually jumping into the front of the conversation to try to get Carson Wentz to be in Chicago. And that package, strangely enough, could involve Nick Foles being traded back to Philadelphia. Now, I think that would make Nick Foles the most traded quarterback of all time. It's incredible how much this guy just gets pushed around. But he keeps going back to Philly and playing really well, although it'll be a different offense there. So I don't know. I would just say this, and I'll leave it at this. I think Carson Wentz has an opportunity. He's young. He's obviously gifted and talented. He's an incredible athlete. He doesn't get enough credit for being the great athlete that he is. He can run with his legs. He can move around the pocket a little bit. Fantastic arm. If they can fix the mentals, whatever's going on up here that isn't working right, if he can fix that, I think he's got a real opportunity to come back, maybe not to the superstar potential level that he was before, but to be a top 10 quarterback again and create a winning atmosphere around somebody. Sometimes you need a fresh start.
Yeah, I agree with the fresh start because it changes your perspective with fresh starts. And I guess if he ever gets to Chicago, so he will push Mitch Trubisky for the starting quarterback role. So it will either expose Trubisky or improve him as well. So that's a win-win for the Bears. So you have two able quarterbacks that has what it takes to lead them to the playoffs, especially Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bears might move away from Trubisky altogether this year and just try somebody new. You know, they tried Trubisky, it didn't work. They tried Foles, it didn't work. That's a fan base that's becoming very impatient with what's going on. So if it ends up being the Bears, I think the Bears need to do something do something that's considered huge. Now the problem is that contract. You know, Philadelphia is asking for 2 first-round draft choices to take Carson Wentz. And I don't think they understand what happened in LA. LA gave 2 first-round draft choices so somebody would take off. They didn't get 2 first-round draft choices. So to think that you have this quarterback that you yourself have destroyed the value of, that's the bad part about sitting a guy like Wentz. You destroyed the value of the asset. No one thinks he's a starting quarterback right now. Everyone thinks he's a failure. So he's got the value of a failure. So a failing quarterback could get you a 2nd-round draft choice if you're lucky. Maybe a 3rd-rounder. With that contract, maybe a 5th-rounder. Maybe you have to give picks to get rid of that contract. So you're gonna have to find somebody out there, a buyer who really, 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 really is in love with Carson Wentz, wanted to draft him, now sees this as an opportunity. And I think with everything that we've heard, and I've only heard some things. I think with everything that they're hearing, which is a lot more than us, I think there's going to be some issues with that. I truly believe that. Let's go to our last question. And our last question comes from...
Okay, so our last question comes from Sage from Minnesota. Hello, Sage. So even if they've just won the Super Bowl, where else can the Tampa Bay Buccaneers improve?
Well, look, on paper, the Tampa Bay does not have a fantastic secondary. They don't really have a shutdown corner. So that's one place where they can improve. You know, going into free agency like the New England Patriots did years ago and finding a Darrelle Revis that just wants to win a championship, signing him to a 2-year deal for, what is considered to be a team-friendly deal, and putting him out on an island and letting him be that shutdown guy. That could be a path that they go down. Other than that, you're going to have to look at the age that you're dealing with. Shaq Barrett, I believe, is a free agent. Yes. Ndamukong Suh is getting older now. Pierre Paul will be getting older. If you're going to continue to run this type of defense, you need those type of players. So you may need to reload the defensive line a little bit too. And even if it's not to replace a starter, if it's nothing else, it's got to be there to be able to ready in case you have depth issues later on. And on the offensive side of the ball, look, that's a great offense, man. That is a loaded offense. I believe Fournette is a free agent after this year. He's got to be replaced unless you just want to go with the single back Rojo type of deal. And honestly, if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there's one other place that you've really got to concentrate on, and that's quarterback. I mean, you've got to think at some point that Tom Brady could get hurt, could have a problem, could get older, could start to hit the wall. Eventually, it's going to happen. You got to start getting ready for the fact that Brady may be leaving a few years from now. So if I'm Tampa and I'm able to shore up everybody I have, and I think I'm a loaded team, and I roll into the second round of this draft, and a guy like Mac Jones from Alabama sitting there, I might pull the trigger and say, you know what? There's no one better that this guy can learn from than Tom Brady. Tom Brady's only going to play a couple more years. Mac Jones would have the opportunity to sit behind this guy, the greatest quarterback of all time, sit behind him and learn exactly how he does everything. And if he's any kind of student at all, he could end up being something. It could be an Aaron Rodgers situation where he gets to sit behind Brett Favre for a few years and learn the game and learn how to prepare and learn how to go out and actually, be a professional. So those are the things I'd like to see Tampa do. If I'm a Tampa fan, from a Tampa general manager, those are the things I'm concentrating on. How about you?
Yeah, I guess with the Mac Jones, if ever he slides to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that's a good scenario because essentially it would be like Alabama all over again. So he'll have loaded weapons.
Yeah.
So the adjustment period for him wouldn't be as hard as compared to, let's say, a Justin Fields or a Trevor Lawrence getting selected first or second overall.
Yeah.
So they're starting with a depleted, if not empty roster. Even though they have so much talent, they couldn't do everything because they have to rely on their receivers. So it could be a win-win scenario if ever that happens. But given how tight the championship window for Tampa Bay, I don't see it lasting for beyond 3 years. They have to win now, and the most immediate need that they have is the secondary on the defense. So they do have young guns there. They do have maturing players in the secondary, but I guess they still need more talent in that side. And of course, you couldn't have too many pass rushers, especially it's hard to bank on a defense playing at the elite level for 2 straight years. So you should always replenish your talent base with younger and hungrier edge rushers that can eventually take the place of a Pierre Paul or a Barrett eventually.
Yeah, look, I agree with the whole, it's a small window thing. I think Tampa's got to be careful not to fall into the small window thing. You got a 68-year-old coach. You got a 42-year-old quarterback. It's fine to concentrate on the window. It's fine to concentrate on the window. When you're done, you don't want to fall into obscurity like they did last time. They won a Super Bowl last time and they just fell right off the side because they just never replenished the way they should have. So it's not. And again, I don't want to go back and beat a dead horse. I understand you have the window, but if you have an opportunity at a quarterback, someone that can sit behind Brady and watch, and maybe even a guy you pick with that last pick of the draft, the 32 at the 32nd pick, because you get him for that 5th round, or sorry, that 5-year contract, 4 years with a team option. I think maybe that's a solution that could work for them. So that's why I see Tampa. You and I kind of see it the same way. Hopefully they can put it together and maybe win a Super Bowl again next year. You never know. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is John Tedora. They call me the Sports Trader. With me today for this entire show has been Lance Fernandez. They call him the Sports Nerd. Together, we do the What's on Sports podcast. We're here Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays live on Facebook and YouTube. We sure hope like hell that you'll listen to us again. Or for those of you that are listening today that missed the rest of the show and want to catch all the great stuff we talked about, you can download us at your favorite podcast platform. We're out of here.